Lollipop, also known as Lauren here. Actually, this is editor Lauren, going back over the footage. Originally, this video was going to be released for Valentine's Day, but I actually made the decision that the 16th of March, when this video will be going live, is mine and Graham's 5-year anniversary of when we first met in person. So I decided, what better way for me to celebrate, and what better occasion for us to talk about our actual experience leading up to where we are today. So that's what this video is going to be about. This video is going to be about how Graeme and I met, and how we eventually became a couple, how we eventually moved in together, and how this happened. So, without further ado, let's get into the video. So, hello my geeks and peeps, it's Lollipop, also known as Lauren here, and welcome back to...
Hi, it's me, Graeme again.
He's in a lot of these videos, isn't he? You're going to get sick of seeing him.
Yeah, you probably will.
We decided to talk about our experience with love, and our experience particularly with online dating, and our experience with a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
Now, for people who don't know, and that's probably a lot of people, Graeme and I met online. We're going to talk about our experiences with being in a long distance relationship because we travelled 3 hours to each other. Graeme used to live in Sunderland, obviously I lived here in Liverpool, and we used to commute back and forth to each other.
But for now, we'll talk about how we met and how that felt for us.
Right, so picture it. 8 years ago. The year is 2011. 20-year-old Lauren goes on to Newgrounds and finds this post for a random chat room. Deciding, purely out of curiosity, to click on it, takes her into a world which she will never forget. And trust me, I will never forget.
I think very few people who knew about that room, which, as we found out recently, is gone. So we won't tell you what it's called.
Good luck finding it.
Yeah, so, yeah, like Lauren was saying, she came on one day. I had been on that room for a year, maybe 2 at that point. I'd been on there for a while, and we happened to meet as someone was trolling the chat. They were just spamming constantly, and...
2 of the people I were talking to decided to take us into a separate chat room where the spamming wasn't happening, and they decided to invite this guy who I'd never met before called Alucard.
That was me. That was the handle I used to go by because I'd really gotten into Helsing at that point.
Now, I had just gotten back into anime at this point. I'd fallen out with it a bit. So I had no idea what Helsing was. I had never watched it. Didn't know anything about the cards or anything. So I just knew this guy was called Alucard. I didn't know anything about the representation behind it. Hence, except the symbol, which, you know...
Came later on.
Came a lot later
You're
on.
welcome again. So, yeah. We basically just played a few games, got to talking, and something about Lauren's character struck a bit of a chord with me. I really liked her. Unfortunately, as was the kind of thing with that room, it was hard to keep track. So...
I actually believed he lived in America because of the time we were talking. We disagree about this. I say it was late in the morning.
I feel like it was in the afternoon when we were talking. So... So, again, we kind of separated and we'd see each other around every so often and struck up a friendship and swapped emails and things, and then for the longest time Lauren left the room.
Well,
it was about 6 months.
The whole reason was because when I first met, him, or I'll just refer to him as Alucard for now, because I didn't know the man behind the camera. When I first met Alucard, he was so... charming and funny and sweet and, everything my Graeme tries to be is. I'm kidding. And something straight away struck a chord with me, and something basically drew me to him. And then within the space of, I think, a month, everything revolves around this person right here.
But then again, I was deeply drawn to Lauren, but she took a pretty long break from the room and everything, and I thought I'd never see her again because we hadn't talked any pretty much details. Then one day she came back and made a joke about me not recognising her.
I got so bored with emails, basically, because when we were talking in the chat room, we could obviously get real-time responses. yes, we might not know when each other was going to be on because of time differences. Well, I thought it was time differences, but because of work schedules and stuff. But with emails, obviously, you can only respond when you get an email, so
It was
that
difficult.
that could go days, hours, weeks, months, whatever. So I decided to go back to this chat room, and yes, as Graeme said, I made a joke about him not remembering me. But
I did. And things picked up from there. Again, we didn't know when each other would be on. At the time, I was on so many courses and things. I would race back home, just hoping to catch her before she went to work, because I knew she worked night shifts. I'd wake up earlier in the morning to talk to her before she had to take her brother to school and things like that. Steadily, day by day, it became more and more about saying Lauren and talking to friends who I'd made online and things like that. And, you know,
steadily, the friendship that we started became romantic, which for either of us, I think was unexpected. I am a huge fan of Catfish. I've watched it repeatedly, and I know it is so possible to fall in love with someone you've never met or never spoken to. I just never thought it was going to happen to me, particularly because at the time, and this is where Lauren is very bad, I was in a relationship. I was engaged, and
but nothing had happened between us while
Yeah.
that was happening, because
we were friends for 3 years online who had never met up in person by that point.
we hadn't even spoke to each other on the phone.
Until like a couple of months before we met in person.
Yeah. Because I remember being so happy when Lauren answered and she was a girl, because that was quite a relief.
Now the story progressed that when I came back, we spoke for at least a year, and then we decided, we decided to then swap Skypes. Now again, not actually, oh no, before that, we decided in a random conversation to exchange actual names, because I went by Melanie and he went by Alcott. So we decided instead to call each other Lauren and Graeme. Then that progressed into us exchanging Skype emails. But again, we never actually spoke or video chatted. We basically just messaged each other.
To let each other know when would be on, or if something had come up where we couldn't make it that day.
Fast forward another year, and fast forward another couple of months, and an argument led to me saying that Graeme didn't trust me, which led to him sending me.
A picture of myself.
And obviously at the back of my mind I thought, it could be anyone can send a picture of anyone, but my gut was telling me that this was who I was talking to, so I decided to be bold and I sent one back.
And
no naked pictures, trust us.
And again, like Lauren said, I trusted her totally. I thought, this is the girl who I'm talking to. This is my Lauren. In a total friendship way at this point.
Yeah, right.
Again, behaving.
Yeah, okay, full disclosure, we were behaving, but I was steadily falling head over heels for this guy.
To be totally honest as well, the first time I ever met Lauren, I was engaged as well. But through no fault of anyone's but mine and my partner's, that collapsed, and I was in a pretty bad time, and thankfully that's when Lauren was really there for us. So, as Lauren will probably say, her own relationship was becoming a bit more strained every day.
I will blame myself in that by saying that, obviously I was falling in love with someone else, so that didn't really help things. But another part of me was saying that I started realising that this relationship I was in was not the relationship I wanted to be in, not just because I was falling in love with someone else. But I will not go into that. But yeah, fast forward another couple of months, and someone decided to ask what I would do if I had his mobile number. By this point, had been 2 years, 2.5 years since we'd started talking.
We've had a word spoken to each other that wasn't through a keyboard. So
every day, it's like basically every day for 2.5 years we spoke just over text. And then finally, Graeme handed me his mobile number.
We spoke for about an hour. I burned through all the credit I had.
We were both on pay-as-you-go at that point.
I actually topped up my phone and used another tenner, and I sat outside my parents' house talking to Lauren, and I was totally engrossed by the way she sounded, the way that she laughed. I could finally put a voice to all the words what I was reading, and I'd never felt closer to anyone than I had that moment.
We were so comfortable on the phone as well. It clicked almost instantly. Obviously, when the phone buzzed and I saw this number, I was petrified.
I could
But
hear it.
but then within mere moments, we were so at ease with each other. Within the first joke, because he called me a cheeky bitch.
So that kind of went on a bit longer, and then
I think it was within that time frame. Well, within that week, that we decided, hey, we've spoken on the phone. We might as well now move this onto Skype calls. So we started speaking on Skype, which then led to Skype video calls. And that I remember that first time, I literally went, wait a minute, let me go put on some makeup.
yeah, to be honest, I'm surprised she didn't hang up on us because I was a wreck.
Oh, you're gorgeous. You always do.
Yeah, so I went to Skype calls and things, and then I think it was a few more months, and then we were just sitting around, we were talking, and...
You're not going to talk about the Skype calls?
What do you mean about how I used to try to call you?
Every single day.
Every single day.
It used to be routine used to be every single day. I would come home about 4 o'clock, about 6 o'clock, we would talk online through text for a couple of hours, and then we would have an hour-long Skype call every single night.
I used to have a pay-as-you-go kind of broadband thing, so I had limited internet, so I used to ration it every day to just make sure I had enough to speak to Lauren, and then the rest of the night we would go back to texting each other through the chat rooms and things like that.
I even remember that New Year's, I think it was 2013 New Year's. I was celebrating out with my partner at the time at his place, and then when it struck midnight, I went upstairs and I called my parents to wish them Happy New Year. I called my grandmother to wish Happy New Year, and then I Skype called this one, which my partner was not happy about, but still.
I also remember about 11:59 on Christmas Eve, I took a picture with a huge happy birthday notice and sent it to you through Skype,
I will flash that up now.
Knowing that you would get it just for your birthday, which I really wanted to do because it was the first year that we'd actually been talking on your birthday.
Which is adorable.
Yeah. And so yeah, we kept on with Skype, we kept on with the things, and that was pretty much how we both thought it was going to go until
March of 2014.
Yeah, I think Lauren was ill that week, and
No, you were ill that week.
We'd made a joke about something.
No, the way it went was I had the day off work, and we were talking about how I think it was a week or two time, I was planning to go up to Manchester to go see some friends who live there. Graeme made a joke about how he could get the megabus stand and come meet us. And again, in my mind, it's a joke. It's not going to happen.
20 minutes later,
no.
It was.
Couple of days later, thank you.
It was on the day. I remember it because it was on the same night.
Listen. Right? Listen. Don't make me start the recording again. Couple of days later, we were talking again, and Graeme was complaining he wasn't feeling well. So I said as a joke...
Oh, okay, I got my timing mixed up.
So I said as a joke, I guess you can't make it on Wednesday then. 20 minutes later...
I sent her a message saying I'd booked the coach and I'd be there whether she wanted to see me or not. Because I used to love Manchester. I used to go there a lot.
So obviously in the back of my mind I'm going, that's great! Oh, holy hell, what am I going to do? Because I'm going to meet this guy that we've been speaking for 3 years by this point. We're finally going to meet in person.
So, we agreed to meet up. Again, just as friends, because we weren't going to cross any lines and things.
Because obviously I was still engaged by this point.
I didn't want to be that guy. And I knew Lauren wasn't the kind of person who'd do that. So it gets to the day of the big meet, and...
I met up with my friends at, I believe it was 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
Just as I was getting on my coach, to which Lauren was texting to make sure I was definitely coming.
I was sat in Wetherspoons having a couple of drinks, having something to eat, and then at 3 o'clock, when I got up to go pick him up from the coach station, I get a text.
Fortunately, I've been stuck in a lot of traffic, and I was actually an hour delayed. I'm pretty sure I texted you before 3 o'clock.
No, just before 3.
Yeah. So, again, I kind of feel like Lauren was worried that I
No.
wasn't going to turn up, but yeah.
Well, my friends and I then went to the Arndale, went on Adult Grounds. I built myself a little Lego Lauren, because I could. And then at 4 o'clock, I went to Soch Hill bus station with my friends to meet Graeme for the very first time. Now, my friends did not know this. They believed Graeme and I were friends who met in college and that we hadn't seen each other in years. Because I was not about to tell my friends that this was a random guy I had been talking to through a random chat room for 3 years.
Yeah, so the second I got off the bus...
Sorry, what is the blankets called?
I was an absolute bundle of nerves because, as Lauren will tell you, I am very shy and I'm very anxious, especially around new people, but I saw Lauren smiling from across the bus station and she came running over.
No, you came running over to me, honey.
We ran to each other and she hugged us and she told us that it's okay to calm down and then that it was so nice to finally meet us. And then she gave me the little Lauren to take back after it.
What this one hasn't mentioned is the very first gift you ever gave me.
I gave her my first volume of Helsing.
Because obviously Helsing was the one thing we bonded over. Obviously Alucard was the screen name. So he gave me his first ever manga, which I had never read and is still on my bookcase to this day.
And that was actually the first manga I ever owned or read.
This little sweetie pie.
And
first time we ever meet somebody's giving me gifts.
And to actually remember, to remember the date and everything, the hoodie what I wore, which was my favourite hoodie, was kept even though it's ragged and torn to pieces. Went to see the Lego film.
The first ever Lego film 5 years ago.
Again, didn't feel awkward at all. Just felt like meeting with a long time friend. We got drinks, we got all the snacks.
I will never forget what actually happened because I was very consciously aware that my friends were there, and obviously I had realised by this point, I was head over heels in love with this person. And so my friends left us alone so we could go to the movies. And I went to go buy tickets because I was treating us to the gallery because Graeme had obviously travelled all this way down. And as I'm looking for the tickets, as I'm trying to find them on the screen, I just hear from next to me.
Basically, I did a bad thing.
What was the actual line, Graeme?
I'm trying to explain. I was in love with Lauren for the longest time. I had been in love with her since we started talking. The reason I used to rush home is because I didn't feel right when I wasn't talking to her. I knew she was in a relationship. I knew firsthand the relationship wasn't doing well. I never meant to be the other guy. I didn't want Lauren and her fiancé to break up, but I waited all this time and I saw the girl who I loved, and I was honestly afraid that she thought I wasn't interested. I could see the look in her eye where she was worried that she'd basically made a fool of herself by feeling for someone who didn't want her. So out of nowhere, she heard, "I'm about to piss you off," just before I kissed her softly. That was mine and Lauren's first ever kiss. Again, I know it was a dick move considering she had a partner, and even though things weren't good between them, I should have waited, but at the same time, we both even admit if I hadn't kissed Lauren then we probably would never have gotten together because she would have thought I wasn't interested.
I will never forget that first kiss, not just because it was our first ever kiss, but, and spoiler alert, I'm going to be so soppy right now, but it honestly was nothing like I'd ever felt before. It just honestly felt like, this is going to sound so weird, but it felt like honestly my heart started beating for the first time. And after that kiss, all bets were off.
I just knew that this was the girl for me, but again, if her and her partner had stayed together, I would have been happy to be with a friend, but...
Although, and this makes me sound bad because again, bad Lauren, this was also the first time I told Graeme in person that I was in love with him. We had said it online to each other, but when we were talking, I basically just said that I knew I wanted to be with Graeme. And I knew my relationship with my partner at the time
It
was...
was rocky at best.
It was not just rocky, it was dead. It was dead in the water. And I am sorry if any of his friends, if he sees this or his family sees this, but our relationship was dead.
But me and Lauren drew a line. We were not going to cross. Kissing was bad enough, but we both admitted that would be all we would do. We would not sleep together. We would not do anything while she was still in a relationship. Strangely enough, when the date ended and we went home, about 2-3 weeks later,
I got invited out for a coffee with my partner, and he ended the relationship. Not because he knew what had happened between us, although he does now. I have told him this in the past. Because basically he knew as well as I did that the relationship was over, and both of us were just waiting until the other one ended it, really. Which is bad on both our parts, but we didn't want to, because we'd been together for 3 years, we didn't want to end it, but we both knew it had to end, essentially. So I called Graeme up, upset, because obviously this was 3 years down the toilet, and Graeme, to cheer me up, basically said, right, that's it, we're going to go to Manchester again as friends. We didn't really think anything was going to happen because of the long distance between us.
Yeah, and Lauren had just come out of a relationship, and I didn't want to kind of make her feel like I was taking advantage. So, went to Manchester again. This time I got there
April 10th, 2014.
I got there extra early. I booked a hotel so I knew I wouldn't have to go, and that was the first day we spent the entire day together.
We went round the whole of Manchester. We laughed, we joked, we went for coffee, went for food. It was honestly some of the most fun I've ever had.
I actually remember us falling asleep in the hotel room as well, next to each other. Yeah.
And basically it's when I knew that we wanted to make a go of this, despite
how
everything.
difficult it was going to be.
Because like everyone else I've heard, long distance relationships they're dead in the water, essentially. There's no way you can make them work. We are living proof that they work.
But to be totally honest, we did have a bit of an unfair advantage because we'd been in contact every day for about 3 years before this point.
So we did know each other. We did know what we were getting ourselves into, and we will admit, long distance is hard.
We've had our ups, we've had our downs. Thankfully, the ups have been better than the downs.
So much better, yes.
So, the hardest part about the long distance was obviously the
distance.
Yeah. I mean, we would travel up and down from Manchester to have days together quite often, and Lauren would often come up and stay with me in Sunderland because I kind of had my own place and she didn't. She'd usually stay for the weekend, or if we got lucky, a week.
We would see each other a couple of, 3, 4, maybe 5 times a year if we were lucky.
Yeah.
And
that was the first year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then something kind of happened.
Which caused us to, unfortunately, break up.
Yeah. It was kind of a bad breakup. We gave each other space, but within 2 weeks we just both knew that wasn't going to work. That wasn't what we wanted to do. So Lauren gave me another chance because I was kind of afraid to fully commit to Lauren because I always thought I was a stopgap before she found someone else. Thankfully I was wrong. So we decided to give it another shot, and we had another date in Manchester, which Lauren was gravely ill but still came along to.
Lauren was throwing up the entire day. It was not fun. Lauren suffers with migraines. Migraines are not fun.
So I think we'd gone on 1 or 2 dates before you'd come back up to Sunderland.
Mm-hmm.
And went out for a meal, and I could see that Lauren was worried it was just going to be the same, that she was stuck in the kind of relationship she was before. So that's when I decided to do something what I'd wanted to do since the first day I ever met her. I took Lauren's hand, I looked her in the eyes, and without a ring, I asked her to marry me.
No joke, seriously, in the middle of the Chesters, I came back with drinks, sat down, and then Graeme takes my hand and says, hey, what do you feel about... It's like, how do you feel about getting engaged?
I try to put it a bit better than that. But
You said, hey, well, how do you feel about getting engaged?
yeah, so that was also the first day Lauren met my family, because again, I was terrified. My family absolutely fell in love with her. And then, in the June of that year, we went to our first ever SunnyCon, and I officially proposed to Lauren.
In front of Team 4-Star and Little Karibo, the
No,
creators of Dragon Ball Z Abridged, Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, and Hellsing Abridged.
because I know.
Hence the name.
So, I'm not gonna lie, a long distance relationship is hard. A long distance engagement is one of the hardest things ever, because suddenly the person who you need there all the time is 5 hours away. Like, no amount of Skype calls or texts can replace
Actual physical contact.
which,
And I don't just mean sex, I mean actually being here to hold each other, or, just talk to each other if you need to.
that year was bad, kind of, for both of us, going through a lot, especially Lauren losing a family member, and obviously I couldn't be there. So, we decided it was probably best that I moved down, to which I did.
2 years ago?
I moved in with a member of Lauren's family. I got a job in Liverpool, and then it led to us living together. So for 8 years of talking, 5 years of dating, we're now living together. The random person I met on that game has changed my life so much. And it's not always going to work out the same for people who are in long distance relationships, and that's sadly a fact of life. But close distance relationships don't always work out either. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't try.
I was talking to one of the girls I work with today, and she said she was in a long distance relationship, and one of the main things between her and her partner at the time was she felt like she couldn't trust him because she didn't know what was going on when she wasn't there. Granted, her fears were confirmed later, but she said to me was not that was not the same for us, was it? And I said no. Even though we spoke every single day, yes, I wasn't there every day, but I knew in my heart, and it does all come down to trust essentially, that Graeme was not messing me around, and he knew I was not messing him around.
I had total faith in Lauren, and knew she wouldn't do that to me, and I couldn't imagine being with anyone apart from Lauren. So again, it comes down to the same basic things as a close distance relationship. It's about trust and communication. Thankfully, it's something that we both got really lucky with when we found each other.
Communication is one of the biggest keys in any relationship. You honestly need to trust each other wholeheartedly, and you need to be able to communicate openly. Now, I'm not an easy person to communicate, as Graeme will tell you. If I'm upset or if I'm annoyed or anything, I keep that internalized. But sometimes I have to be able to communicate to Graeme that something has upset me. And thankfully, over the 8 years we've known each other, Graeme has gotten good at telling.
Yeah, I know Lauren pretty much better than she knows herself at this point, and she knows me. She knows I've got issues with things that, if there's something troubling us, I'll internalise it myself. But again, we kind of got lucky when we found each other. So, that's our story on long distance relationships.
Okay. What was the hardest part for you apart from the actual distance?
I don't know. Not always being there for you. Because I know that there was times when you need to be held and things, and I couldn't do that. What about you?
Mostly the distance is one. It's the biggest one essentially.
Yeah.
I think it was the not being able to come up as much as we both would want.
Yeah.
I remember there was one year where we celebrated Christmas in October because we were not sure whether
November and December was going to be viable. So.
Because at my job we were not allowed to take December off, so I was not sure whether I'd be able to take any time off in November. So I brought all his Christmas present up in October.
And we celebrated Christmas in October, then Lauren's birthday in the new year, or at the same time as the October one, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but thankfully we made it work.
Obviously, one of the worst things you're always going to encounter in any kind of relationship is trust issues, communication issues, past issues with previous partners that can scar, because both of us have been scarred by previous relationships in more ways than we can count. And sometimes they're going to interfere with relationships, sometimes they might not. It's whether you allow them to, essentially.
It only has the power what you give it.
Very nice, Graeme. So yeah, we have heard, same as everyone else has, that long distance relationships don't work, but we are proof that they can.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. He's finally moved on. We're engaged. We're, you know.
Yeah, it does take a lot of work, but so does anything what's worth having. So yeah, that's our story.
If you have any comments about anything we spoke about, if you want to ask us more questions about our relationship, or
just comment down below.
We might actually do a reaction video to this where we react and answer the comments down below.
So leave as many as you like. And thanks for watching.
And until next time,
Sayonara.